There's a kind of quiet that lives in a house after loss. It doesn't announce itself. It simply settles in, like dust gathering in forgotten corners, only visible when the light hits just right. This house used to be full of life, laughter, footsteps, soft music, voices echoing with warmth. Now it's just Mark and me. And the silence. And the walls which still remember her. Lena, before we go on, I have to say, this isn't the story I thought I'd be living. And it certainly isn't the one I expected to tell. Mark doesn't speak much about grief. He carries it in his silence, in the way he pauses for a moment too long or smiles just a little too late. I feel it in him like a hum beneath the surface, something unnamed, but always there. And I recognize it because I carry it too. I don't know when it shifted between us. Only that one day his glances felt different. They lingered. They landed. They began to feel like something warm. Something alive. A year had passed since we lost her. Lena was the center of everything graceful, kind, full of light. She brought us together, and her absence hollowed everything out. Even the sunlight through the windows felt colder without her. One night, I couldn't sleep. Rain tapped gently against the glass like a lullaby with no end. I wandered into the kitchen for tea and found the light already on. Mark stood there, back to me, leaning against the counter like he was holding himself up with both hands. When he turned and saw me, our eyes met. That's how it always began, with stillness. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. I shook my head. "You too." He nodded, exhaling. "I miss her voice the most. At night." The crack in his voice cracked something open in me, too. I poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to him. Our fingers brushed for the briefest moment. And still, it stole my breath. He held the mug in both hands like it might anchor him. "You've grown strong," he murmured. "She'd be proud." "So would you," I replied, and his smile came slow and searching, like he was trying to see something he didn't quite understand in me. We stood side by side in silence, the rain cloaking the house in a hush. I returned to bed eventually, but his presence stayed with me, like warmth in a room after the fire's gone out. I couldn't name what I was feeling. It wasn't wrong, but it wasn't simple either. Spring arrived slowly, as if it, too, was morning. I found myself taking on more cooking, errands, just being there. Mark began to linger longer in shared spaces. On the porch. At the dinner table. His tone softened. His questions grew more personal. He started asking about my dreams, not the polite kind of asking, but the kind that listens, that wants to know. One golden evening, I found him in the backyard, sitting in a slant of warm light. His hands were folded like he was holding something fragile. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. He smiled, and something inside me melted. I sat closer than I had ever dared before. "You remind me of her," he said. "But you're not her. You're something else. Stronger. More alive." I looked at him, my chest tight with unspoken emotion. He turned away, regret flickering in his expression. "You don't have to apologize," I said softly. He didn't move his hand when I laid mine over it. His fingers curled around mine with quiet assurance. "It's not wrong," I added. "Just complicated." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it. The grief, the love, and something tender trying to grow between the cracks. "I don't know when it happened," he said. "Only that when you're near, the world doesn't feel so heavy." I feel the same. That night, I stood outside his bedroom door, heart pounding. I didn't knock. I just stood there in the silence until I turned and went back to bed. From then on, things became gentler. Mark's touch changed. Small, subtle gestures, a hand on my back, fingers brushing mine as we passed a dish. Nothing overt, but every touch spoke. One evening as I cooked, he stood beside me, so close I could feel the heat of him. "You've become the heartbeat of this home," he said. I smiled. "You say that like it's poetry. You inspire it." We ate dinner by candlelight, not intentionally romantic, but it felt that way. When I reached for the plates, he stopped me gently. Thank you, he whispered, for staying, for letting me feel again. Later that night, I found him asleep on the couch. I placed a blanket over him, but his eyes opened. I didn't mean to wake you, I said softly. Maybe I was waiting for you, he murmured. I sat beside him. He looked at me like he was finally ready to let something go. Do you ever wonder what it would feel like to stop pretending? He asked. All the time. He reached for my hand, and I didn't let go. I've followed rules all my life, he said. But nothing prepared me for how I feel about you. I held his hand tighter. No declarations. No drama. Just truth. The world might not understand this, might not want to, but maybe it didn't have to. Because this wasn't about forgetting Lena. It was about rediscovering warmth. About two hearts finding something soft and slow to believe in again. Sometimes, love doesn't come in grand gestures. Sometimes, love arrives like breath. Like light. Like the way he looked at me when he whispered, "You mean everything." And I believed him.